Grief is such an overpowering emotion, especially after losing someone so close to you. It can take months, years, even decades to get back to normal, if that's even possible after experiencing a significant loss. This podcast was created to help you move through and release the emotions, allowing you to heal the hurt and begin living again. Listen in as I chat with medical professionals, grief workers, and people who have first-hand experience in losing a loved one, what their experience has been, and what they did to help heal themselves and those around them. Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but I believe there is always a silver lining if you're willing to look. Welcome to the Release Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Release Grief Podcast. Today I'm here with Miss Delia. Did I say it right?
Delia.
How do you say your name? Go ahead.
Delia.
Delia. I love it. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name since I already butchered your first name. So how do you say your last name?
Colantuono.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. We have been experiencing some technical difficulties, but we are bound and determined to make this podcast happen. And she is coming in live. Well, I mean, for me, it was live. For you, it's a recording, but coming in live from Sri Lanka. So exciting. I'm super excited because I love travel. I've always wanted to be a travel bug and get the travel bug and see all these. I've always wanted to see the world for myself. I don't want to see it through magazines. I don't want to see it through images. I don't want to see it through the eyes of others. I want to see it through my own. And so you get to do all of that. And that's your current job that you do or your business that you do, correct?
Also, yeah, one of the many hats. It's an intersection between full-time travel and mindfulness and languages and lots of other things, but fully nomadic for 9 years now.
For 9 years. So what got you into being this nomadic island hopping woman?
It is a beautiful question because it's so strictly related to the topic of this podcast. I was born a traveler before knowing that. I am the daughter of two travelers and especially my father. And I'm so happy that you're giving me the opportunity to talk about this, like behind the scenes. Everyone sees the travels, but they don't know that it started before my birth. When my parents found out that they were awaiting me, they did not want me in that moment. They were about to go to Africa on a backpacking trip for 6 months, but then my mom found out she was pregnant and my dad was not very happy about it. And that trip to Africa then in the end never happened in their lives. And I was born with like baby passport in my hand probably. And instead of growing up with Disney and cartoons, I grew up with his travel books and pictures and postcards, and Sri Lanka was one of the first ones that I can remember. And the pictures were not even pictures or albums. It was a roll, like you had to just scroll like this, and it's just palm trees everywhere and monkeys and tuk-tuks and beaches. And I'm a kid and I'm like, I want to go there too. And here I am now with a yellow coconut on my desk here, thinking that at some point in the 80s my dad was here. So yeah, I was born and raised a travel child. My siblings as well. My dad took us to the jungles of Costa Rica when I was a teen and just start diving, scuba diving, and being with wild animals, eating strange fruit, just being barefoot for a month in the middle of the winter. That was summer there. So I realized that it's always summer somewhere in the world. So I realized I'm not going to do winters anymore whenever I can. And that's what I did. When I finished my master's degree and I started working online 9 years ago, I said, Dad, I'm going to do what you've always wanted to do, which is just to travel full time. And I'm going to be careful not to make babies in the wrong moment. I'm just going to live the life. And he was kind of jealous. He's like, do it. Like everyone would love to be in your position. You're making money online and you're free and you have the strongest passport in the world. Go for it. He was never worried. And that's something that I'm so grateful, and I wish I could have him to thank him. Just the trust that he had. He knew he raised traveling kids, but if you tell your dad, and you're, 25-year-old blonde European girl saying, I'm going on a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia, bye. Another dad would be worried, like, okay, tell me more. What's the plan? Be careful. Are you crazy? And he's like, have fun in moderation. See you at some point when you're back. Not even a hug, because that was not his love
Oh
language.
no.
It was just different. This is part of the unsolved child wounds that I have, because his generation was not used to that. Like from his own dad, he probably never received a hug or I love you or I'm proud of you. So it was not in his language to say that to me. But now I realize that he had those feelings. It was just hard to communicate. And in
Mhm.
return, it was also stubborn and we were conflicting all the time. But at the core, we were the same. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to explaining more about what this this relationship with travel and with him meant for the person I became today.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, of course, our parents are only guiding us through what they know, instead of, having this booklet that's been given to us with birth, and like my kids never came with a booklet. Like, might have been so much easier and simpler, but they never came with the booklet. Did you have a good relationship with your dad?
I wish I had an easy relationship with him. The That's a generational dynamic of communicating love in a different way. So his way of communicating love for the kids was obviously providing for the kids. Like
Mm.
anything we needed was there always. And whatever I wanted to study, wherever I wanted to go study, he was supporting me. But if I think about the proper relationship, the way we would communicate, sometimes it was not enough being said and too much taken for granted. And then love that is not expressed is what becomes grief afterwards. So 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, in February it will be 6 years, when my father passed away, I had so much guilt for not telling him, expressing to him all the love and the gratefulness that I had, because we had this harsh relationship. So none of us would really sit, even during his 3-4 months of fighting cancer, the the vulnerability to say, look, we've been fighting and being stubborn with each other, um, provoking each other, but the reality is that we were reflecting each other and we were supporting each other and being proud of each other and loving each other. Why is it so hard to say it? Like, this is what I started doing afterwards with the rest of my family, and what I encourage everyone to do is to say the things that you take for granted and to say the things that you've never told them, because then otherwise is what I had to deal with is grief of losing him, never having him again, and the guilt of not saying what you wanted to say, and this sense of helplessness for not solving things that you're never going to be able to solve. So it was a lot. It was a lot for me in
Yeah.
this moment.
Sounds like you have a lot of regret for not being clear with what was on your mind and how you felt about him, and in the relationship, and just laying it all out there for him to, yay or nay it, embrace it or reject it.
A lot of regret, a lot of guilt. And when he got his diagnosis, just a couple of days before, we had booked a trip to the south of Chile and Argentina, Patagonia, the mountains. We had booked everything. It was a nice collective effort. Like, he designed the itinerary with us, and then my sister booked a flight, and I booked the accommodation, and we had this huge map, and we were pinning stuff. It was a dream, like this dad taking three
Yeah.
kids to the end of the world, literally. And then he got the diagnosis, and he had lung cancer, and because he had been smoking, and I am a big advocate for healthy living. So I think he always felt judged, criticized, or attacked by me. But of course, that was my way of loving my parents, telling them not to smoke, not to eat this, not to, to live unhealthily. It's not a daughter being annoying. It's a daughter who would love to have her parents around for as much as possible, as long as possible.
Right.
And he felt that I was just taking away his freedom to do whatever he wanted with his life. So when he was fighting with final stages of cancer, I think there was this. It's not even unsaid. It was actually said and verbalized, like my resentment for like you fucked it up. Like now you're leaving us alone here. My brother was 18, and that's not something that a dying person wants to hear. Like there needs to be
Right.
just pure love at that moment. As I was still, fighting my battle for health, and it was too late anyway. So I should have understood. Okay, from now on, you need to hold the space for this person to at least feel love till the end. And I was not able because that had never been our way of communicating. So there were awkward silences. There were days where I wasn't even seeing him. There were fights. There were even fights in those weeks. And I thought I cannot spend the rest of my life with this pain, with this regret, with this guilt. Of course, when you're 25, 26, no, I don't even remember how old I was. No, actually, I'm not. No, I think I'm now 34, so I was 28. Still, you're a young adult. You can make mistakes
Mhm.
because you're not at the top of your healing journey yet. Actually, that's the beginning. That was the beginning of my journey into mindfulness. I was very impulsive and temperamental at the time. If I think of the way we were communicating, I would never talk to an ill person like fighting cancer that way, just to prove my point. So many times throughout the years, I wish I could just give him a hug, and that was possible in the dreams. Thankfully, I met him regularly in my dreams, and I'm hugging him every time I see him there because I don't remember a hug with him during life. Maybe, maybe, maybe the day I graduated. I don't know. And this is really sad because a hug helps you say the things that you cannot express in words. It says even more than words. So you can imagine how I was feeling when I started understanding that I wasted this big opportunity in those last weeks to express a daughter's gratefulness and love. So that was the beginning of my journey to self-healing, and it's an ongoing journey. I've done everything, even to the point where I became a mindfulness coach myself and an emotional intelligence life coach myself, because it's been so fascinating to see that there is a way to heal when everything seems so dark that the only option for you is to also take your life, so at least you don't have to deal with this pain anymore, to being the person that helps people who are grieving. It it means that our brain is powerful, and we normally don't even know how much capacity we have to heal ourselves, not alone, because the important thing here is that we're not helping ourselves alone. We're not living this human experience to do harsh things alone. I got the help of therapists, of coaches, of mentors, facilitators, like trauma informed therapists. I've done every subtype of assisted therapy that you can imagine, and this combined work and effort plus everything I was studying, the somatic practices, it really made me understand how beautifully self-healing the mind-body connection can be when we have this intention. So the grief, like the loss and the suffering, is something that we have to accept forever. There is no point in which thinking of a loved person that we lost is not hurting us anymore. But the way we live our daily life and the way we deal with the memory and with our mistakes, that is something we can definitely heal.
I think I have an opposing view on that point, on a couple things. It sounds like, and if I'm hearing this correctly, that you still feel regret for the last moments of your father's life, for the last couple months of when he was alive, of the miscommunication that was happening between the both of you. And it seems like you're still hurting at this point in time with that. And this is why grief is difficult to keep moving through, because you're triggered by those moments, by the lack of communication, by the lack of telling him that you loved him, by the lack of telling him that you accepted him for who he was and what he did, even though he did that, and telling him that that he was the cause for all of this. Um, and my difference of opinion is once we accept our fault into it, our own fault into that, we can then let it go. We can either hold on to that grief of that moment and that pain and really start identifying with that, or we can just drop it and it's no longer a part of us. And I don't subscribe to the methodology that I wake up every day in grief and pain and all of those. I have um so with the loss of my daughter and my granddaughter, it was I have found the beautiful silver linings on the other side of that pain. And when I think of them, I don't think of hurt and pain and sorrow and strife and all of those things anymore. I think of the beautiful times we shared together. It has made the memories of them so much clearer and so much more poignant, than thinking about the time that I didn't take my granddaughter and could have potentially averted her death. The time that maybe we should have uh, bought different tires for our daughter and put them on her car, and she might be still be here. I don't fall into those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I think that moving, as I have moved forward in my grief, and it didn't come overnight, my God, it took a long time, and I hated everything and everyone for the longest time, and especially myself. I hated myself because I was powerless to stop them. I was powerless to control the world and the universe and not let those things in my world perish. I thought, and this is a belief that I had, was that I am a mother. My one job is to protect my child and to make sure that they don't die. And I had failed. And then and then I failed again with my granddaughter. And so, but those are beliefs, and beliefs can be changed. Now it's the fact that I don't argue with reality. We lose children every day, and we bury children before we are ready to. We bury our parents before we are ready to. We bury our loved ones before we are ready to. And that is the reality. And I don't fight with it anymore.
No, and this is your power. And I don't think there's any difference in what we were saying, because I was just telling you the beginning, which is
Yeah,
had that too, right? You had that I hate everyone and I
I
hate myself.
hated everything.
So the grief is always it's a wave. So that was me at the beginning, like being
Okay.
resentful, and then I've done the work, as you've
Yeah.
done your work to be so accepting and wise now. And now I accepted that we make mistakes. We don't think that we're going to lose someone. So we don't act every day as if it was their last day. It's totally normal. And you cannot
Yes.
change that. What we can change, and that like this being helped me, is to forgive myself, to forgive
Hmm.
him if his love language was a result of his own upbringing, to forgive myself because I was a teenager most of the times that we were. I forgave both of us. I saw my inner child, and I hugged her, and I'm protecting her now. And I saw his inner child that was as wounded as me for his own dad. So in the end, there's absolute peace now, and there is a relationship with him that is the best we've ever had, because it's just made of pure honoring his memory. And I'm following his footprints, his footsteps everywhere around the world where he's been. Like the first thing it did after he passed, it was going to Brazil, which was his favorite country in the world. And now I'm in Sri Lanka, and then I went to Buenos Aires, and all the places where I know I'd meet him there, because I don't go to his grave. I know that he is around the world, because if he's a soul
Right.
now and his
Mhm.
passion was traveling, like, I don't go back to my hometown trying to find him there. I know where to find him, and I feel his presence, and I feel him as a guardian angel that follows me around. Because anything that happens to me, any flight that I'm almost missing, anything that is happening, I stay very calm, and people around me are surprised and like, oh, she's so
Yeah.
mindful. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm into mindfulness, but I have this angel, and if I start telling you some stories, you will believe me. And and the little signs that we give each other and all of that, is it's such a joyful relationship now, that I I think everyone who is grieving someone knows that they look at you, you feel their presence, right? So even more, I'm gonna use all the opportunities I have now to honor his memory, and to show gratefulness, and to do the things that he would have loved to do. And it's my way of, you know, asking forgiveness for my mistakes, but I know that he forgave me, because that's the point, when probably
But have you forgiven yourself?
yes, I, through a lot of this somatic healing work, where I like saw where my pain was, and I visualized it, and I decided to let go of it, as you were saying before. At some point we let go of it, and then there is more space to fill, and we can fill the space with the memories, with the gratefulness, with the love, with just being present in the moment, instead of living our life away, being in sorrow every single day, which is the norm at the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
people don't want to have
Yes.
fun, want to show that they're having fun, because it's a process. But at some point, it's your duty, because you're living for you and for him. I I feel that I'm even less scared of death than I've ever been, because I'm not scared of dying. But now, knowing that there is a person waiting for me on the other side, sometimes I do risky things, because I'm like, I mean, I'm good in either dimension. I'm
Right?
not known in either dimension. And when people freak out on the plane because there's massive turbulences, I'm still there eating or writing, because I know, like, whatever happens, just put me somewhere, and I'm fine.
Right. You're like,
So
I'm a blessed being and I have angels around me. This is just nothing. Give me more food. That is beautiful. And yes, I probably spoke out of turn, um, to find out that you were already in those planes of like being okay with everything. Like it, because people question me all the time, like, how are you okay? How can you talk? How can you have a podcast? How can you write books? How can you be on, other people's podcasts talking about grief and be happy about it? I'm like, well, it's taken a long time. First of all, I've done a lot of work to be able to talk about this and to be able to allow others to talk about their pain and their grief and their sorrow and how they've managed to make it through it. Um, and I talk about grief as making it through it, but we're not meant to stay in grief forever. It's not meant to be a place that we camp out and identify with. It's meant to be an experience that we go through from somebody that we love that is no longer here, or, a lifestyle that we had that we no longer have anymore, or, a relationship or a job or whatever you want to label it as. That's all forms of grief. But we're not meant to like make an outfit and a wardrobe out of it and put it on every day.
you empower so many people through this work, because some people are scared to think, oh, maybe there is a life after grief. Who am I to live that life? But you are doing a service to the world, empowering people to believe that it is not only possible, it's your right, and it's what that person would have wanted. Like, I
Yeah.
imagine if something happens to me, which can happen every day,
Hmm.
I don't want the rest of my family to just be sad forever. Maybe I want them to mention me every couple of days, but with a smile, thinking of
Right.
something easy that I've done, being, still having
Yeah.
me present there somehow, but not stopping their lives. That would make me so
Right.
sad. And I think everyone would want the rest of their family to keep being happy, and
Yeah.
remembered. Everyone wants to be remembered, but nobody just wants the sadness of others just because they're not around anymore.
Right. Oh no, you're froze. Come back, come back to me. Oh no. I gotta take a picture of this and send it to you because it's pretty darn good. So hold on. Hold, please. There we go.
Yeah, I'm still here. I can
Oh,
still
there we
hear you,
are.
see
Oh,
you.
you come back. Could you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you all the
Ah,
time.
well, that's good. I couldn't hear you. It got choppy, so I apologize. I hope it wasn't anything profound you were saying, because if it was, you're gonna have to repeat it word for word. You're like, damn it.
I think you were still there when I was saying that you're doing a service to the
Oh, okay.
world, and that I'm really happy that there are these spaces,
Yeah.
because sometimes single people feel a bit uncomfortable feeling comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
commitment. But if more people can lead and show the way to others, saying, look, now take your time and do the work, but you're allowed to live your life afterwards, and you're allowed to honor that person through your own happiness as they would want it for you. And I think this is a really powerful message that we're sending here.
I think so too. I think it I think people get caught up in the fact that they don't feel that they're allowed to move beyond the passing. And so they stay stuck in it. And it's not necessarily because they feel that their loved one wouldn't want them to be happy or would want them to be happy or any of those things. I think it literally comes down to them and believing that they are going to forget their loved one if they don't wear the grief as a cloak of armor. And it breaks my heart because there's so much, it's so beautiful. Um, like what you get to see and do and feel and hear when you've moved beyond that moment, and moved into the acceptance phase, moved into the, okay, they're gone and I love them. And this is what I remember. And this is what I remember. And this is what, no guilt, no shame, no doubt, no fear, no nothing. You just get to remember the love that they had. Uh-oh. Hmm. There you are.
Can't believe it. I had to change from the laptop to the iPhone because the laptop is gone. It's just
That's okay. That's okay.
that's
Um,
the reality of being in a remote
that's okay.
country.
Don't be sorry ever. Like, I'm excited. You know what? It makes me extremely happy that in this day and age, I get to connect with you and you're on the other side of the world from me. Like, that makes me very, very excited because that means there's no boundaries, only the ones that we put in place ourselves. Like,
Oh
you
wow.
can't connect with people, it's because you're not wanting to connect with people. Because right now we have everything at our fingertips. And I mean, you've talked about seeing your father in your dreams. That's a connection point. Like if you're not connecting with your loved ones, it's because it's something inside of you, not them.
Wow. Wow, you turned technical problem into pure philosophical wisdom. If we
Well,
don't connect, it's because we don't want to connect, because we have all the options in the world. Yeah, when I found out about your podcast, it was in Japan, now I'm in Sri Lanka. I'm like, whatever happens, we're gonna have a lot of time zone difference, a lot of technical problems, but we really want the same. So we'll make
yeah,
it happen in a way or another.
always. Like I go by the I believe in spirituality. I believe there are no coincidences in life. So what that means for me is, and they're like, oh, well, you wanted your daughter to die because that's a coincidence, right? No coincidences. No, I didn't want her to die. But the fact of the matter is, I couldn't control that. I can control what happens afterward. And I can control how I react and respond to that. And if I choose to seek help, if I choose to um, broaden my horizons, and if I choose to dive into the pain versus running from it. and I choose to dive in. I choose to understand it. I choose to, move through it. I choose to not let it control me. And so
The
therefore I
only,
have been able to do that. So now I want to help others. And to me, that is one of the most beautiful gifts because I mean, we're only here for the blink of an eye. In honesty and reality, we're here for the blink of an eye. And if we're not doing what we love and are happy with it, what's the point? What's the literal fucking point?
so true, so beautifully said. You sit with the pain for as long as it takes, but the only way out is the way through. And at the end of that tunnel, because the most painful moments of grief is like a dark tunnel. Like I
Yeah.
didn't want to leave the bed. I felt like I could not live my life with this sense of guilt ever. I was physically sick. But if you don't do the work, you will get physically sick. Like this
Yeah.
repressed pain will make you sick. We know about,
Yeah. Manifest
psychosomatic
and
diseases, reactions,
yeah.
all of that. So I had a choice. I had a choice to ruin another life or to honor one life through honoring mine.
Mhm.
So two lives that can have a different destiny, and that's what I chose. And of course there are moments, but when there are those moments, I don't suppress them. I sit with them, like on the anniversary or his birthday or Christmas. I know that on those days I'm more vulnerable, so I sit with the pain. I have a good cry. I also have a good laugh thinking of some beautiful memories, and I talk to him out loud, or I write, or I connect. And connecting is a way to express the love, and grief is only the love you can't express. So I have my mechanisms to deal
Yeah.
with grief. Yeah,
That's beautiful. And you get to see him in every place you go, which I think is amazing. I know my father wanted to travel the world. He never did before his passing, and I've only just now started. And although I've traveled the US multiple times over, I've not really been outside of the US. So I'm excited to start this phase of my life and taking my family members all with me to see it.
it's never too late.
No, it's never too late. Excuse me. It is absolutely never too late. And so, like, I want to go back to like the Sri Lanka thing, like the connection there. Because it started like you were super worried at the very beginning, like we weren't sure how it was going to go. I'm like, no, we'll just try it. We'll make do. I subscribe to the methodology that whatever happens is going to happen. I can't force it. I will allow all the goodness to come into my world. I will allow this podcast to happen as it naturally needs to happen. There are no, I do not subscribe to the highlight reel in grief. I'm not going to show you only the great moments. Um, and in podcasting, in life, in grief, in love, there's always going to be a glitch. There's always going to be a speed bump. There's always going to be a pothole. It's not going to matter. But how you react to all of those does matter. And so this is
Yes,
one of
and
those. It's going to be in
that's
the
relatable, and that's authentic, and that's what everyone wants to see in this fake world, of pretended perfection.
yes, this fake world. I hate it, but
it's it's pointless to try and pick another date, because the same thing can happen again. Like
it'll be worse.
Wi-Fi comes and goes. Like who knows? We're in the tropics, and it's okay.
Absolutely. And I think it's beautiful. So I'm excited that you're there. I'm excited that you get to honor both yours and your dad's love of travel. And do you travel by yourself or do you travel with your siblings or do you have a spouse?
I
Like,
travel by myself because I travel full time and I work remotely. My siblings, they are based somewhere, but they join me. And I just met my brother last month in China and my sister in Thailand. And now I'm gonna meet my sister again because she's coming to Sri Lanka. And so I love traveling alone, but I'm never really alone for a long time because there's friends and family who join me, and then there's all the people that I meet on my travels or the conferences that I go where my other nomadic friends are. So when I have intense socializing weeks, I usually need, before and after that, a week of being completely alone, not talking to anyone and working and recharging. But it's a really nice balance of solo traveling and traveling with people you love.
Oh, that's gorgeous. I love it so much. I think my husband would probably kill me if I decided to just take off traveling. Because he's very much a stay put kind of person, has that personality. And me, I'm just like, oh, let's go. It'll be fun. We'll figure it all out on the way. And he's like, no.
Well, what happens if you travel alone? How many days can he be alone without you?
Maybe a week.
I
Maybe.
try with a week, and
Oh, I
then once
do.
you're there, sorry, I extended.
Oh gosh, he would be so upset. You did what? No, I want him to join me more. I think it'd be fun. It's fun for him because he's he grew up with the side that you have to stay put, you have to work a 9 to 5, you have to like very structured stuff. Um,
Milestones. And
mhm. And so for me, it was more like we would travel and then you figure out stuff. Like, okay, now I need to figure out where to get a job. So like I have a lot of skills. I can go into any place and get a job. And he has a lot of skills too, but he just doesn't see how that translates and how why people would hire people that are just coming in. I'm like, because you have a lot of skills. Like you understand a lot of things. So it'll take no time at all for you to get in. But he just doesn't, he can't grasp that, that point. Or maybe he doesn't want to. So I won't drag him around the world for, 6 months.
but that is more normal in just a couple of decades ago. That was everyone's life. You know, you have this
Yeah.
roadmap, but now, especially the generation after mine, you know that you can even only work remotely and only travel without ever settling down anywhere, and it's changing. But trying to explain this to my grandparents, for example,
Right.
especially sometimes it was not an option back then, and maybe
No.
people who emigrated somewhere else, they found a job there. But I don't have a home base and I work everywhere, and they ask me, why don't you live somewhere? And I try to tell them that traveling is addictive, and once you start seeing
Yeah.
something, you want to see everything. And it's they still every year ask me, how many more years? I'm like, I don't know. I can I
Like,
keep extending this permanent world trip because the
because
yes
settling
is
down feels like a life sentence, doesn't it?
yeah, I wish I was more committed to one place, but not yet.
That's not your journey in this world. That's not your journey. Your journey is to see and experience things I mean, if it brings you happiness and joy and you get fulfillment out of it, that is your journey.
Yeah, and I don't even blame myself. I blame my parents because that's that's what they did to me as a
That's
child.
okay.
No, seriously. When I was 17 and I was in Italy in this yeah in this small town where everyone was very protective of their kids. I would go on trips with my friends to other countries, and my parents were totally fine with that, and nobody else was doing that. And
Right.
then it just my brother was probably 14 when he started flying alone just because he wanted to to watch some football games in another country. Like we're very free, and compared to people in Italy, very international minded, but it's really thanks to my parents.
That is,
So
I like that you brought that up because that is very interesting. You're right. Like growing up, it's like, we have to like hold tightly, like you're not responsible enough, but yet we're supposed to be giving them all the tools that they need to become this adult that is functioning properly in the world without, as much as you can, right? Like we're not gonna push out perfect people, but like more so that are able to do things and figure things out on their own versus, they're now 20 and don't even know how to make a doctor's appointment by themselves, or they need to figure out, I don't know where to go to get vehicle insurance. How do I pay this? How do I do, that's not setting your children up for success at all. I think it's
not
actually
protecting
empowering.
them,
Yeah.
empowering them. This is something that like I have a really beautiful connection to my mom, and I tell her all the time, you are such a powerful mother because you have the instinct to protect, but you control it and you let us be and you let us live and you have sleepless nights sometimes because all the three kids are on three different airplanes at the same time around the world, but she accepts it and she never tries to tell us to do less or to make her worry less or to live less. And this is very, very beautiful, because I know when I'll be a mom, I will know what it means to be worried. But I know that they gave me so much freedom, and that's the minimum I can do to my kids. It's to give them the tools. My mom and my grandma, they would always say, you have to give your kids roots and wings. So when you give good roots, then you trust them. You know that they are street smart. You know that they take care of themselves. You know that they're not so vulnerable out there. They know how to stay out of trouble. So then they can use their wings, and that is their life at some point. It's not your life anymore.
That's beautiful. I love that. Give them roots and give them wings. That is like that's perfect for everyone. Find your roots and then give yourself wings. Like even in your grief, like find something to root to, like to grasp onto, and then fly. Don't stay. That is beautiful. I'm gonna adopt that for my kids, even though they're all grown and out of the house.
Yeah, it's because images are very powerful.
Hmm.
What it means is you need to be grounded, but you need to be liberated. And this is something that is not a contradiction. I can be grounded even moving around all the time because I know where I'm rooted, and
Yeah.
I liberated and I am free because my mind has no cage. This is something that I adopted from them, and this is something I will pass on. And this
Did
is
your
yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask if your mom had pulled back on that, was like a little more um not wanting you guys to flutter all around or to be free as much after your father passed.
No, my mom is really amazing. She knew that my life was meant to be lived out there. So I tried for a couple of months to stay in Italy also because of, the family business. And I thought maybe it's my role to just, as a first daughter, to stay here. But she was the first one, my siblings as well, telling me, look, you will never be happy living here. You're meant to go, so you want to go to Brazil to meet your dad there because that's his favorite place. Go there. Like nobody else can or will wants to, but you do that. So I went there and I cried at every sunset there, but I cried also for the joyfulness to sit on a beach where I know that he has been many times before. How can you
Mhm.
not feel close to someone in the same place where you know that he's been and has been happy in that place? The least I could do is to go there and be happy there. And this is the way that I connected to him, and the way that my mom just, yeah, encouraged me to keep doing my thing. And I tried yeah, to not make her worry too much, but sometimes when I do extreme sports or things, she still tells me, can you let me know after you've done the thing and not before? Sometimes I would like to have a night of sleep.
Yeah, true that, true that. Like, yes, I can totally empathize with her. Sometimes my kids scared the bejesus out of me, and I'm like, just tell me when it's done. Tell me after the fact, not before the fact.
I can say something embarrassing that it's funny. When I started flying my drone and I lost sight of it, like after a couple of minutes, it was gone. I'm like, oh, imagine if it was my son. Like I'm suffering now because I lost a piece of plastic. Imagine, parents who lose their child in a crowd or whatever.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh wow, it's like your body gets split into pieces, and you're not just you anymore when you have kids. So I totally respect my parents and everything they let me do. It's incredible. And when I was in Costa Rica with them, I was 13. I almost died because I had the freedom to go swim alone wherever I wanted. So I went behind rocks and I got in a riptide, and I didn't know back then how to swim out of it, and I almost lost my energies and I almost drowned. And
Mm.
I mean, what would had their life been if I had died there almost in front of their eyes, thinking, don't give them too much freedom. But I learned out of that experience that you really need to protect yourself instead of thinking that your parents are going to do that for you. They were not
Yeah.
responsible for me because I don't live inside their body anymore. The moment I am me, I need to survive, and they are not responsible no matter what I do. I'm here, I can decide to do crazy things, I can decide to harm myself, I can decide to honor myself. It's none of their responsibility anymore. But I decided to honor
Also,
myself and live a
yeah,
healthy
but
life.
you also take responsibility for all of that too. It's not like because when you make those choices, that's your responsibility to own up to whatever the consequences are for it, you know. That's man, this has been a great chat. I'm really glad the connection has held out. Um, I have gotten so many nuggets of wisdom just listening to you and listening to us, and it's been great. So I just have to ask because this question keeps popping up in my head. What do you do for work?
So my background is in languages and communication. I'm a specialized translator and interpreter. So for the first 10 years of my career, I worked for hospitals and research centers in medical translation, and I could do everything wherever I wanted, which was great.
Ah,
But then in the last few years, I started following my real passions. So I started working with travel content and coaching people, helping aspiring digital nomads, working with photography, doing all the things that are basically what I would do for free anyway. But people started to ask me to work with
you?
them, for them. So now the portfolio is very differentiated. So let's say that I am an interpreter turned creator turned coach, which is the beauty nowadays, that we can do multiple things at the same time. Wear different hats. We don't have to be justified to anyone. And most of the people who graduated like 10 years ago are now doing different things anyway.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a 40-year job anymore. Also because technology replaces our jobs or enhances our jobs. So what I really love doing now, except for all the travel stuff and the travel content and the paid trips that I go to, I really love holding space for people in their growth process, because I know how much that helped me in the last years overcome not only the grief part, but also lots of unworthiness and self-limiting beliefs and all of that. I got helped I got help from mentors and therapists and coaches, and then I decided, okay, it's my time to give back for the people that I can support, that I can help, and this is what I really want to do in my life. I'm also thinking of starting studying again and becoming a licensed psychotherapist, because that's been my dream forever, to be honest.
Well, there you go. I mean, I love that. That's awesome. And you can do them from anywhere. So you can still have the best of both worlds. Who says you can't have your cake and eat it too? I call them a liar.
At the same time, it's good to slow down, and I imagine for me, slowing down means staying 1 month in one place maximum. It's a big goal. It's a big commitment.
That is a big goal. That's a big commitment. I like that. I mean, everybody is on their own journey, like, and yours is traveling, and it's beautiful. And uh where can people find you if they want to know more about you and follow
So
you and support you and hire you and all of those things?
yeah, so to make it easier for me, in the last year, I was only using one platform. That is Instagram. So Delia underscore CO. And that's the beginning of my surname. But now I'm a bit more of an adult. I know that some types of people, they don't like to hang out on Instagram. Maybe they prefer LinkedIn or blogs or YouTube. So I'm spreading out a bit more. But from my Instagram, you can find my email address, so people can contact me or DM me, and then usually we hop on a call and I see if I'm a fit for whatever they need. I do travel consultation calls, I do digital nomad coaching calls, I do mindfulness and holistic well-being. Whatever people need, I tell them what I do, and we see if it's a match, and then
Right.
we know if I can help them, and then it's a tailored program and mentorship.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And so my big takeaway from all of this, and so everyone listening, like pop below what your big takeaway was from this podcast. What was shared that you just like keeps resonating in your head. And for me, it's give them roots and give them wings. Like to me, that was very eye-opening and poignant because as an adult, like especially when you lose someone, especially when I lost my daughter, and then when I lost my granddaughter, I just wanted to close in on them and hold them so tight and protect them all, which was not protecting anyone. It was just causing more stress and more chaos within our family. But like I was holding on too tight and I had to realize that myself, had to let go. Um, because otherwise I'm just going to exclude myself from their life because they're not
I
going to be, go ahead.
sorry, I was so inspired by you, by the work that you're doing, by the way you cope with it, but the things that you're saying and you're brave enough to say to the world, it is so mind-blowing because it one thing is losing a parent, one thing is losing a child, and overcoming and putting yourself out there as a podcast host. I live for these conversations because you invite a guest so that people get inspiration, but actually the guest is the person that gets the most inspiration because she can talk to you. So thank you so much.
Oh, likewise, honey, likewise. Inspired by every guest I have on. I learn something new with each conversation that I have. And I just find it invigorating for me. It helps me heal myself as well because I'm not immune to any of these things. I still have my ups and downs, and just because I think and I see things in a different way, because I'm now like on the other side of the grief, looking back on it and realizing that, hey, there were these moments of beautifulness. Like I am thankful that I got to spend all this time with these loved ones. I'm thankful that I got to be around them, that I got to hug them, that I got to hold them, that I got to be a part of their journey and they got to be a part of mine. And so I'm not immune to like the dark days and the days where I just want to rage at the world and the unfairness of all of it, and then fight with reality and then come back down off my high horse and realize, okay, this is reality. This is the world. I'm not immune. And
Thank you for saying
no one
this.
is.
Because I think if people are watching this, it's because maybe they are dealing with similar pain, and it is really good to validate their feeling of pain, not saying, hey, once you get to the stage where we are, then
Right.
you're free, it's cool here. No, you never stop feeling that sense of emptiness inside of you, but it's the life you build around it that matters. Like the space that you create to hold this experience is what makes a difference. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful that you're very openly and honestly saying this because it's always there, it's undeniable. But the power of the collective is that when you are really suffering for something and you see that other people have the same suffering, you put it into perspective, you accept it more, you realize, okay, I'm not alone in this. So it is really powerful what you're doing to create this space for other people to feel seen and to relate to us and to each other. So this is yeah, my big thank you.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you coming on here, and I suppose I better wrap this baby up. So, thank you so much for being on in it. And can you leave our listeners with some words of advice or encouragement, or um, just give them a little something to leave them with?
It's something I would tell myself in those dark moments. It is okay not to be okay. We don't want to force positivity at all costs, at all times. We need to sit with whatever emotion comes because we are not our emotions. We should see emotions as clouds that come and cover the sky for an hour or a day, but then it will go. You identify as the sky. And then every morning it gets bright and in the evening it can get dark, but you have your certainties and they are within you. Nobody can take them away from you, and no event or circumstance in life can change that. So we are more powerful than we think. Let's
Yes.
enjoy the clouds. Let's dance in the rain. Let's not pretend that it doesn't exist, but let's not let that define us.
Oh, that's beautiful. Perfect. Thank you so much for being on here, and I will see everyone in the next episode. You know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode out, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of Release. All the links plus a few extras are posted in the show notes below. And if you think someone you know could benefit by listening to this episode, please share it with them. And as always, keep going, keep being, keep doing. You are amazing.